Picture the world's biggest container ship nations. Germany in the top 3? Makes sense. Export powerhouse, famous ports. China near the top, of course. But number 1 by fleet ownership? Switzerland. Yes, Switzerland, a landlocked country whose official home port for seagoing ships is Basel. Now picture a 400-meter megacarrier, 60 meters wide, drawing more than 15 meters of water, sailing up a 100-meter wide, sub-10-meter deep stretch of the Rhine. Not happening. And yet, on paper, Switzerland sits at the top. Here's the twist that lets you win the comment section every time. When rankings say Swiss container fleet, they're counting who owns the ships, not which flag they fly or which port they visit. Ownership, flag, and crew are 3 different levers. Once you see that, every confusing headline snaps into focus. By the end of this video, you'll be able to decode any ship in 10 seconds flat. Who really controls it, why the flag often isn't home, and how a quiet office in Geneva ended up running the largest fleet on Earth. Start with a ship you might see in a headline, a 24,000-plus TEU MSC Giant, nearly 400 meters long, 61-ish meters wide, stacked with colored boxes like a floating skyline. It belongs to the biggest container line in the world, Mediterranean Shipping Company, MSC, headquartered not in Shanghai or Singapore, but in Geneva, a short drive from Lake Geneva, no ocean in sight. And yet from that address, hundreds of ships and more than 200,000 people are coordinated every day. So how does a landlocked country top the charts? Lock in this model. A ship has 3 people, just like a car. The owner is the name on the title, the company that controls the asset and earns the revenue. The flag state is the license plate, the country on the stern that sets tax, safety, and labor rules. And the crew is the driver, the professionals who actually run the vessel, often from the Philippines, India, Indonesia, and Eastern Europe. Those 3 rarely match, by design. A Swiss-owned ship can be flagged in Liberia, technically managed by a Greek or Singaporean operator, crewed by Filipinos and Indians, built in South Korea, carrying Chinese exports to Europe, financed by a syndicate in London and Tokyo. It sounds messy. It's actually optimized. Quick quiz you'll now ace. If a ship is Swiss-owned but flies a Liberian flag, is it really Swiss? In ownership rankings, yes. In flag rankings, no. That's why you almost never see a Swiss flag on a megacarrier, even though Switzerland leads by ownership. Before we zoom in on MSC, here's the backstory that explains why Switzerland even has a sea flag. In 1941, with World War II choking trade, the Swiss government created a small merchant fleet and a rectangular Swiss civil ensign for ships. Home port? Basel, by law. The goal was simple: secure critical imports under a neutral flag when borders and navies were unpredictable. Neutrality didn't make ships invulnerable. 2 were lost despite the flag, but the fleet served its purpose. After the war, Switzerland kept a tiny register as a strategic reserve. It peaked at a few dozen ships. In recent years, it's been much smaller. That's the Swiss-flagged fleet, tiny by design. So how does Switzerland still end up number 1? One company, MSC. MSC runs more than 800 container ships with a combined capacity in the ballpark of 5.5 to 6 million TEU. That's more than any other line. For comparison, the entire German-controlled container capacity is roughly half that. Because MSC is headquartered in Geneva, those ships count as Swiss-owned in league tables, even though the flags on the sterns are mostly Liberian, Panamanian, Maltese, or Marshall Islandish. How did MSC get here? A founder with a captain's instincts and a contrarian strategy. In 1970, Italian captain Gianluigi Aponte bought a small cargo ship and began running routes other carriers ignored: Africa, South America, the Middle East. He bought used tonnage at a discount, refurbished it, redeployed it quickly, and built a network where others saw thin margins. While competitors queued for expensive new builds and focused on prestige lanes between North America, Europe, and East Asia, MSC stitched together growth markets and secondary ports. Later, when it did order new ships, it did so with relentless focus on slot cost and network fit. In 2022, MSC overtook Maersk and took the #1 spot. And it did this all as a private family-owned group. No stock listing, no quarterly earnings parade, minimal disclosure. Why Switzerland? Why not Naples, where the family started, or Singapore, the world's shipping crossroads? 4 reasons matter more than sea views. First, holding structures and tax. Switzerland is built for multinational groups. It's not a flag of convenience, but it is a friendly jurisdiction for global headquarters and asset-holding companies. Second, reputation. A Swiss address signals stability and credibility. Banks, insurers, and big customers respond to that. In shipping, where trust can be the difference between a quick decision and months of delay, this matters. Third, discretion. Privacy isn't a footnote, it's a feature for family businesses. You'll notice how little hard financial data MSC publishes. That's by design. And fourth, neutrality and political stability. The Swiss passport is useful in a world split by sanctions, security pacts, and shifting alliances. If your business touches every continent, neutrality opens doors. There's also an underappreciated advantage. Geneva, Zug, and Lugano are commodity hubs. Traders, insurers, brokers, and big shippers share sidewalks. Vitol, Gunvor, Mercurium, Glencore, names like that are part of the local fabric. When the people who buy, sell, finance, and move goods are a taxi ride away, deals move faster. Let's bust a few myths cleanly, because you'll hear them. The flag does not tell you who owns the ship. It tells you the regulatory home. The owner tells you who calls the shots. Basel is the home port, so Swiss megacarriers sail home is a misunderstanding. Basel is a legal home port on the registry, not a navigable destination for 400-meter ships. And flags of convenience aren't cheating. They're legal and mainstream. They offer predictable registration, competitive fee structures, and standardized regimes that global operators rely on. There are legitimate debates about labor, safety, and the environment, but the practice is standard across nations, not a Swiss quirk. Now, why don't Swiss-owned ships fly the Swiss flag? 2 reasons. The Swiss register is small, more stringent, and not designed as an open registry. It was born for national resilience, not for scale. And global operators prefer big registries with deep admin teams, consistent port state control performance, and fee structures built for fleets, not for a few dozen vessels. For a mega fleet, standardizing on large open registries is simply smoother. Anchor this with a forever fact. Container capacity is measured in TEU, 20-foot equivalent units. The biggest ships carry more than 24,000 TEU. A single sailing can move the equivalent of hundreds of freight trains. That's why the scale of one company's fleet matters. When you hear Switzerland is #1, what you're really hearing is MSC controls the most container capacity than anyone else.
You now have the mental model insiders use. You can explain in one clean sentence why Switzerland tops the ownership charts without a coastline, why you almost never see a Swiss flag on a mega carrier, and how a quiet HQ in Geneva runs the largest container fleet on Earth. That's knowledge you can use every time shipping shows up in the news. Thank you for watching. If this gave you clear, usable insight, subscribe for more sharp visual breakdowns of shipping, trade, and logistics. I appreciate your time, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.